Israeli airstrikes today targeted the homes of 20 top Hamas officials, continuing a week-long bombing campaign on the Gaza Strip. The bombing was intended to stop Hamas missile attacks on southern Israel.
The international community understands that Hamas is an extreme Islamist organization that spread its hatred in the entire region, which is being supported by Iran, and the international community needs to understand that this is the translation of the right of Israel to defend itself, that there is no other alternative, and we are doing what we need to do in order to defend our citizens.
Tensions between Israel and the Hamas government reached a breaking point in November and December. As a result, the Israel Defense Force launched airstrikes against strategic targets in the Gaza Strip on December 27th. Israeli fighter jets and helicopters bombed paramilitary bases, rocket launch sites, training camps, and government buildings. The bombing continued daily for more than a week, causing a great number of casualties and destruction in the narrow seaside strip of land bordering Egypt. Israel has a complex history in Gaza. Following the 1967 Six-Day War with Egypt, Israel occupied the Arab enclave. In September of 2005, Israel withdrew all troops and settlers from Gaza as a culmination to then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon's unilateral disengagement plan. In January of the following year, the Islamic social and political organization Hamas, which the United States characterizes as a terrorist group, beat out the secular nationalist Fatah party in the Palestinian parliamentary elections, winning a large majority of seats. Fatah had dominated Palestinian politics since the Palestinian National Authority was created in 1994. After a year and a half of intermittent armed conflict between Hamas and Fatah supporters, Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip in June 2007. The tensions that led up to the Israeli bombing of Gaza began in November 2008 when Israeli troops raided a tunnel dug by Hamas near the Israel-Gaza border. Israel claimed that tunnel was used to capture and transport Israeli soldiers to Gaza. Hamas denied this, claiming the tunnel was used solely for defensive purposes. They called the raid a violation of the current peace treaty with Israel. In retaliation, Hamas launched a barrage of rockets into southern Israel. On December 18th, the Egyptian-brokered peace treaty between Israel and Hamas expired. Although both sides briefly attempted to renew the ceasefire, Hamas ultimately declined. They claimed that Israel had not kept its promises to loosen its total blockade of Gaza.
اليوم الجمعة 19 ديسمبر انتهت التهدئة ولا مجال لتجديد هذه التهدئة، والعدو الصهيوني يتحمل المسؤولية عن انتهاء وانهيار هذه التهدئة لأنه لم يلتزم بأي من استحقاقات التهدئة.
Many consider the blockade, which has been widely condemned by human rights and international aid organizations, the primary cause of the extreme poverty in the Gaza Strip. In absence of a ceasefire, Hamas increased their rocket attacks into Israel. The bombing in the last week has been some of the deadliest in the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. More than 400 Palestinians were killed, including many women and children. The airstrikes drew protests in cities throughout the Middle East and around the world. Mahmoud Abbas, the Fatah president of the Palestinian National Authority, called on Hamas to end hostilities with Israel to avoid unnecessary bloodshed.
نرجوكم نتمنى عليكم أن لا تقطعوا كما تفضل معالي الوزير، لا تقطعوا التهدئة، فلتستمر التهدئة ولا تتوقف حتى نتفادى ما حصل، ويا ليتنا تفادينا.
But with Hamas still firing rockets into Israel and Israel still launching daily airstrikes on Gaza, it doesn't look like there is any end to this conflict in sight.